Howdy, hi folks. This is episode 17th of Rambling Weekly. We're going to talk about emotional weight, so I'm not going to hold back and kind of be like, ooh, we're just going to wait. It's in the title. So we're going to play with emotional weight, or at least talk about it. So let's do that. Okay, welcome back. That there was Don't Be Defeated by a Friend, and for those who have played it, you might recognize it from the Trails of Cold Steel. I'm going to go with that album today, and I like the music, but I don't like it nearly as much as some of the other soundtracks and stuff that Falcom has put out throughout the years. I actually think it's a bit of a dip from what they did with Zero and Zero and Ao no Kiseki, as well as Nayuta no Kiseki. But I mean, there's still some really good tunes with it. I just think it kind of dips a little bit. But there are certainly some really good ones, and I'm going to present them through this thing called the Rambling Weeklies. So yeah, hope you enjoys it. This week, what has been going on? I have been busier than a mofo. I just passed 400 pages handwritten for Sudraba, so going with that. Hopefully I'll actually have chapter here done soon. Is it 14 or chapter 15? I don't even remember. But I'm almost done with that chapter, at least the handwritten portion, and then I'll go through and type it out, which usually takes me about a day to kind of go through and stuff, depending on how many pages. It might even take me longer. Haven't really played anything. I have a hankering to play Doom. My brother got Doom for his birthday, and I kind of want to play his copy of Doom and stuff. But unfortunately, I haven't gotten to Nayuta. Out of that, reading. I haven't really been reading much either this week. I mean, I started reading the Conquest of Gaul, and then I stopped. That's kind of how I do things. But what have I done? I've seriously trying to think of anything. I know I took the time. I'm making a video, so I've got the Nayuta one that I'm working on playing through and stuff, and I just kind of haven't really gotten back to working on that, because I need to play through it, and then hopefully my laptop can handle recording more footage, because I've got some footage, but I want to go back after playing through and beating it, to just, have some different kind of footage and stuff like that. But I'm working on a video that's actually going to tie into being a Rambling Weekly, and that is, it's about Gunpei Yokoi, and I think that, and I don't want to really mention too much about it right now, but it's, it's a video that's going to more so, it might have to, it might be like a special edition of Rambling Weekly, where I don't even ramble, it's just that. But I really wanted to make at least a video kind of talking about this person, because I want to, and that's I mean, I know that sounds really greedy, and I want to do it, but it's after seeing the outpouring last year, and it happened, I think, either yesterday or today, the time of this recording. It happened this week by the time you're listening to this, but Iwata Satoru passed away last year, and the outpouring for that was really just crazy to see, and I kind of fell out of really playing Nintendo, and I don't pay attention to the videos, announcements, and all that sort of thing, E3 and stuff. I've been to Tokyo Game Show a couple times, but it's not like I'm going, and Nintendo's never there, so it's not like I'm going there outside of checking cool Falcom stuff and getting cool Falcom stuff, and I never really thought much else beyond that. And, you know, maybe a couple of Dragon Quest things there, if they're around. But, it was really incredible to see that sort of outpouring for him, because I had no really, you know, I knew of him, but not really that much about him. And I just don't know, like, how he fits into the puzzle that is as Nintendo, where as somebody like Gunpei Yokoi, to me, he is one of those people that is the Rushmore, you know, if you're going to make the Mount Rushmore debate sort of thing of Nintendo employees, he's got to be on there. He's got to be on there. Or if you're going to compare it to like a machine, he is the oil that makes the machine go. And because of that, I've always wanted to make a video about it. And it was seeing that sort of thing and kind of reflecting back, and, you know, I understand it. This was, you're pushing towards 20 years ago since he had suddenly passed away, but outside of a few different articles and stuff of like 15 years since his passing and that sort of thing, I haven't really seen much. So I guess it's my way of, I guess, giving thanks to somebody who really, when it comes to games and stuff, played a bigger role in that than I knew for a very long time, because he had his hands in a lot of cookie jars in Nintendo until he left. So, but yeah. So that is that. And that's kind of what's taken a large chunk of my free time, is kind of doing a bit of research. I've got it written out on, I mean, hear that little, this is my little pamphlet of one of those little notepads. It's not like a big one or anything that I always write notes on. So like, this is my Rambling 16 notes, which is usually just the songs and maybe a couple jots down for like, hey, don't forget this, dum-dum. That sort of thing. I even have something here that I don't even know what that's to. Actually, I do now that I look at it. But yeah, sheets like that, I think I got like back and front altogether 16 pages. So I'm typing it out and it comes out, because I didn't add, because I was going to have quotes and stuff, and then I'm already at like 3 pages and I'm only, or like close to 4 pages and I'm only like halfway through it. So hopefully when I do it and everything, it won't be really boring. Hopefully you'll find it interesting, and hopefully you'll enjoy it as much as I enjoyed looking up on the information. And that's all I can really ask for. So that's that, and yeah, that's really about it. So let's take a break, and as I said in the quick opening there, we're going to be talking about emotional weight. So that should be a whole lot of fun, because I'm not a very emotional person. How am I? So, to the break. Welcome back. That song there was, if I can, there we go, pull my sheet, is Even If Driven to the Wall. And, you know, being a sweet, awesome title like that, it serves as the really cool, nifty thing about the Trails in the Sky series and stuff, is that it's music that plays when the team as a whole, so it can be just one character, 3 characters, whatever, the HP drops below, I think it's like 20%, 20-25% or so, and then it switches to this really, really awesome song. The earlier ones from like Trails in the Sky and stuff, I don't really like so much, but the one particularly from Kiseki Evolution, which is like the PSP, the PS Vita enhanced version. It's got like more vocals, more line, like audio and stuff like that, voice acting. That version is probably my favorite. This one's pretty good, but that one's just like so. This episode I wanted to talk about emotional weight, and truth be told, I started kind of talking about it and it turned into worse than worse. Like I kind of just rambled and just died. So we're gonna try this again. So I wanted to talk about emotional weight because I've seen this before with something like people mentioning in Fire Emblem Fates, oh, it's so sad when you send your kids off to this ring world, nether world, whatever, you know, the side world where time moves faster. It's so sad. Or you see this with the silent protagonists. Something happens and it's because you're interjected in there. Oh, it's so sad. And part of this, and this, I bring this episode, I wanted to bring this up last episode, but I didn't, more so because I think maybe knowing me better would kind of make this a bit more sensible to people, because I'm not such an emotional person. When I see these events fold out, it doesn't really like hit me, and I kind of wonder if it's because the emotional weight's being pushed onto the player to kind of work it out themselves. Like, for example, they're done, when there's like a death or something in a game, you know, how do they convey that sort of thing? How do they convey the sadness? You know, you have the music, you have the scene itself, but then you also have to do it through what you've built, the repertoire that you've built with the characters and stuff like that. Those are really the only few ways. Case in point, one of the more depressing like scenes, events, things in games, maybe I'm kind of misrecollecting this, but Final Fantasy VI. I'm not a big Final Fantasy VI fan, but what happens to Cyan, Scion, kind of sounds like that damn car. Cyan. What happens to Cyan and his castle, family, and everything is depressing. Like, to me, here you have a character that's introduced, and shortly thereafter, you basically have to watch as they're just all kind of out of it. And and there's something about that too. There's something that's almost more insidious than Kefka destroying the whole, or, you know, turning the world into ruin, than there is, you know, him poisoning the castle town. Like, maybe it's me, but like, to me, that there's something a bit more egregious and that pulls at the heartstrings a bit more than just kind of blatant wanton destruction. And that's kind of what it gets to, is just this just psychotic, just like, I wouldn't say amoral, because he has the moral of, you know, being like the ultimate power, even though he's not really strong in the I mean, just becoming a god. I mean, his morality is what kind of pleases him, I guess, more so than anything. So if it pleases him to destroy, then he's going to destroy. But in the wanton destruction of things, you don't really get much out of it. Like, think for a second of this line. And if you were asked this line, how would you react? Are you afraid of dying? Now, because of just that, you know, that phrase, I mean, depending on what kind of movies and stuff, it's going to pull at you very, very different ways. And the thing is that I think at times, I kind of think that is a very, for lack of a better word, shallow. And I know that's a bit judgmental, but but if you had listened to the other episode, you know that, you know, the last week's episode, you know that I'm not a very emotional person, and it's all about the logic, blah 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 blah. But it's shallow because it is kind of trying to like attack things that are very base to us, and I don't think it kind of goes beyond, like the thing with Fire Emblem Fates. It's this you know, this parental kind of attitudes towards trying to care for a child and stuff, and then to ship them off just to kind of keep them safe, only for them to rejoin. You're pulling at, you know, the whole, you know, that whole parental aspect, and for a lot of people, that they probably don't care. I mean, for people who either are parents, maybe have had parental experiences raising siblings or cousins and that sort of thing, it might push at them a bit more, but it's not because of anything that has to do with the characters. It just has to do with the situation, because it's so base and that sort of thing, and that's kind of what gets to me. Like, this line, "Are you afraid of dying?" That question was posed to me a couple weeks ago. And usually when you hear that sort of thing, you kind of think of like almost like a movie, like a point in the, like a gangster film or something like that. When you hear that, "Are you afraid of dying?" And then all of a sudden, poof, that's, you know, that's, you know what, yeah, that's, you know, I for the not even really a split second, but a micro split second, you know, thought wins the curtain call bang that's going to happen to me. But when you hear that, "Are you afraid of dying?" When you hear that from you know, somebody, you know, if you're like hurt in something, and you know, or think of it from a kid. Like, for example, this instance, this question that came up to me, "Are you afraid of dying?" was asked to me by somebody who was handicapped. Now, or, you know, if you want to go into like special needs, whatever, handicapped, they're mentally handicapped. They have some sort of, I do not know what is the, for lack of a better word, what is the problem? I mean, I know that sounds a bit callous, but you know, I don't know what, outside of some sort of mental handicap, I don't know what's wrong. And he asked me this, and so if you're being asked this in the same way of say, like, a child has loses somebody, or something like a pet, you know, you get that kind of question, this first kind of break in the allure of immortality sort of thing. It's like you were blank void before, and then all of a sudden you get consciousness for a couple handful of years, and you're like, "Oh yeah, I live forever," and then all of a sudden, psh, nope, no you don't. Do not cut that one. But that question, like, when you try to, like, and yeah, you could say, well, everybody has the experience of death and all that kind of stuff, and it's like, well, yeah, but in the same hand, a lot of times, like, for example, and believe me, I'm not the first one to kind of to say this, but look at Final Fantasy VII when it comes to death. Look at how that's tackled. Aerith gets poked through and through there, but what kind of emotional weight is there? The emotional weight really kind of comes from the music and the slowness of it, like when it because it's not like a quick, you know, lightning strike. It kind of slows down. You see the materia tipping, bouncing bizarrely from pillar to pillar, and that sort of thing, and you got the music playing and everything like that. But outside of music pushing it, what were people really sad when Aerith died? I know somebody I know, a friend of mine way back when, kind of put it as, I cried because I had a ribbon attached to it and I thought I lost it. That that to me is quintessentially what is Aerith Final Fantasy VII. It is just this. she meant so much because she had something so important, but for some people really lamented that. Like, it obviously pushed a lot of people because there was quite a long time of, this is the greatest RPG or JRPG experience, blah 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 blah. I mean, let's not take into account Final Fantasy II's death. I honestly think Joseph's death is a lot more traumatic, a lot more weighted than that, because Joseph has a daughter. You actually talk to him, and then he gets squished by a rock. Pretty sad there. And you're just kind of like, well, yeah. And then, a few others. There's a lot of death in Final Fantasy II now that I think about it, and not just your own from wandering into wrong parts of the game, but and this is what kind of gets to me, is that it feels like a lot of times the emotional weight is dependent on what the player is willing to do with the legwork. Like, they make you work to get the emotional feeling out of it. With Fates, with silent protagonists, a lot of times, two very big instances where silent protagonists make my brain want to explode. Chrono Trigger, as much as I love the game, Chrono Trigger, when he is revived at the Tree of Death, or whatever, the Tree of Life, or Death Mountain thing, when he is revived, and Marl's hugging him and stuff, and he just kind of blinks, blink, and there's she's saying all this stuff, and he's just silent, just deadpan. Dude, to me, that's just a really incredibly awkward scene. Like, you get an idea of what kind of character he could be if you actually this is kind of what makes Chrono, because if I remember right, in Chrono Cross, he talks a little bit there at the end, kind of explaining things. Like, maybe it's Luca or Marl that's doing all the talking, and it's just kind of there, which is equally as egregiously weird. Another case in point is something like Wild Arms. Look at the main character for that. Rudy. I think that's the name you go with, Rudy. I mean, I love Wild Arms. I think the opening's really fantastic. I like the scene that plays if you are idle on the start screen. That kind of colors in something that happens later on, and you're like, oh, okay, I think it's really cool. Love the vibe and everything, and how the very very large tip of the hat towards Morricone's work on the spaghetti westerns with music and stuff like that. But spoiler alert, at one point he loses his hand. Chop, poop, clean off hand, ready to go, hand, go bye-bye. And because he's a silent protagonist, because there's only 3 characters and he's a silent protagonist, it's really weird. It's like really weird. And the emotional weight is pushed to the player to have to kind of go, wow, this is a really shitty situation. And I'm trying to think of more instances where that's the case. Well, a point where I think it does a good job, and people will kind of disagree with me, Super Metroid. When the baby Metroid, you have to kind of play. You don't really have to, because it kind of. I'm trying to remember how 2 ends. It's on the Game Boy so long ago, but it gets recapped in Super Metroid. The baby Metroid starts following you. You're like, yay, it's a baby Metroid, and all this sort of stuff. And then take it off to get tested and everything, and you're leaving Space Colony, and you got to go back, and Ridley's got it. Blah, Ridley the dragon, and you have a very large stretch of time where you're not interacting with this Metroid, and then you find the canister, and you're like, where's the baby Metroid? And then you finally run into it, and it is monstrously large, and it is very very hungry. and it starts to eat you, and it drains you to like one health pellet sort of thing, like one health, one energy, and then it lets go because it realizes and how it interacts and kind of acts with Samus during that scene, and then how it comes in to protect and help during the final battle and stuff. That to me is a bit more emotional in the, like, that's at least trying to convey a more emotional sense that these characters, these things, for lack of a better word, have their own sorts of emotions, and that to me is more powerful than please interject your own emotions, and because we're too lazy to try to make these kind of work out a bit better. That's kind of been my problem with Fire Emblem as of late, is this, like, case in point, look at something, and certainly, yes, the old Fire Emblems with their let's talk 3 times and then do it on Mary on the battlefield sort of thing is a bit lacking when it comes to social interactions and dialogues and stuff. I think it's in Sacred Swords that there's an actual couple that do it on the battlefield. It's pretty, or at least it's kind of how it's worded. It translates kind of wonky, but the thing that kind of gets to me more so is look at, and this is indicative of problem with it, is that look at the genealogy of a holy war. Actually, don't even look that far. Look at Fire Emblem, the North American release with Nurgle. Nurgle. I think that's his name, Nurgle. I mean, yeah, they base a lot of the names and stuff, particularly like Nurgle and his, like, I can't think of the name of his spell, but they're Mesopotamian gods and stuff like that. But Nurgle, you don't learn too horribly much about him. Bit of a dick. And then when you actually get to fight him and stuff, he says a couple things, but you don't really get much out of it. And you're like, what's... And to me, this is... I kind of like it because it forces you to have to do certain objectives, but in the same hand, those objectives are a little... what's the word I want to use? Unless you look it up, you're not going to figure it out. Like, one of them's to get the... name's Nils, I think, maybe a better way to put it. And you have to get him up to like level 8 or level 10 or something like that. And it's like you don't really know that, and you technically really wouldn't use him to get up to that level unless you're trying to like basically force him to gain experience, because he's just a bard, which is there to allow characters to go again. So after they've used up their turn, he can play his little music, and then you're able to go again. Dancer class kind of thing. And so you got to do that, and you've also got to do these objectives, and the objectives, they're not like right there for you. A couple of them are, but not all of them. One of them, you have to take out this unit that's able to nullify magic and stuff like that before it disappears, and stuff like that. And there's another one where you have to beat something within a certain amount of time. And wow, that's a bit obnoxious in that regard, sort of thing. What it ends up doing is that it allows to build the emotional weight of what is Nurgle, and he, like, in the game, he kind of comes off as this asshole who's just going, trying to just be strong to get strong, sort of thing, to be the mightiest, might is right, sort of thing. And it turns out that, and I know if I'm spoiling this for people, spoilers, apologize, but it turns out that he is doing this because he is trying to protect his children. That's where it stems from. It stems from this desire to protect his children, and in trying to do so, he has gone mad to the point where he doesn't even realize who his children are, and that this power that he's seeking is going to end up killing them. So he you know, by completing all those sorts of objectives, you learn that sort of thing. You come to understand it, and it's tragic, but there's much more emotional weight to it when you get all those sorts of scenes. Certainly, it also helps that you get to see two sides of it, because when you first play the game, unless you are like, particularly like back then, you're not really gonna know those sorts of things. You're just gonna, excuse me, whew, sleepy 3 in the morning, but you're just going to kind of just go through the game and then just beat him and stuff, and you're like, wow, the dude's a dick, because he was just trying to be really, really strong and that sort of thing. But then you kind of learned all those nuances. Why is it seeking power? Because he was trying to protect his kids in the first place. That's what he was going after, and in doing so, he you know, goes mad for all these years trying to figure it out, and then starts getting loopy and that sort of thing. So I mean, I don't know. There's certainly a lot of other examples where that's not the case, and I'm not trying to say that. I'm just trying to keep it towards games on this one, because you see this, I think, in movies a lot too, when it's trying to push things along, try to get quick into the action. Like, I think that's a bit of a double-edged sword when it comes to it's referred to as in media res, and it means in the middle of things. So when you first start off and you're kind of going into the middle of, like, you have the middle of the action and stuff, it's supposed to kind of get you in real quick because there's action happening, and if something traumatic happens, the emotional weight of that's supposed to kind of hit you later on, because they go back to it and be like, oh, well, this is the emotional baggage for that sort of thing. You're like, oh my gosh, it's so sad, and then you go back to it, you're like, oh my goodness, sort of thing. It's a double-edged sword, because you have, you know, you're trying to do that, but then if what you do at the beginning isn't interesting or exciting enough, people aren't just going to care. And it's just kind of how that is. So, I mean, yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to go into a little bit, is that, you know, this kind of two-pronged attack of where I feel that, you know, games in particular, or not even particular, but games and media and stuff kind of do a really bad job of carrying its own emotional weight, and where you have to kind of force your own emotions to empathize or sympathize to kind of get things done, instead of by kind of building up to what the situation will do, with things like in Fire Emblem and stuff like that, with fates, and just kind of, I don't know, words. But I am curious to know what you guys think of, or if you have good examples of both, of really bad movies, games, or anything where it's like, this is what they, you know, we're trying to go for, but because they're just like, here's a shitty situation that's going to just make you sad because it's a shitty situation, like that doesn't really do it for me. It's kind of, to me, that's lazy. And that's what it kind of feels like with that Fates thing. It's trying to play on the base instinct of protecting children and that sort of thing, to kind of push you into being, I don't know. And maybe, like I said before, in the last episode, not really an emotional kind of person. My feelings, they're not really there. But yeah, if you have good examples of like emotional scenes and why they're like good emotionally and stuff. I think with Cyan, it was just, I think I mentioned that I mentioned in the previous one, but in Final Fantasy VI, Cyan, he, you know, his family gets, and the whole castle town poisoned, kaput by Kefka, where wanton violence is, there's no thought to it. Needless bloodshed isn't really going to hit. I mean, it's going to, what's that, like, quote from Stalin, a single death is a tragedy, a million is a statistic or something like that. And it might not be a million, but we're also talking about somebody who's got like the highest score of kill count there. So, or at least maybe not by hand, but by he is a part of it. But it's kind of that how it feels to me too, is that it's not necessarily what specific characters are doing and how they react to those situations. It's more of simply the situation, and certainly situations can be very, very sad, but I don't know, maybe it's me. For example, I think I've mentioned this plenty of times before, and I know I keep on, oh yeah, we're done, but think of the book The Good Earth. I think I've mentioned this book before, but there is a point in the book. So this is about a peasant. I want to say pheasant. I think I did the same thing too. It's about a pheasant, but it's about a peasant in China, a farmer, Chinese farmer, and it's going on about his life, you know, who he ends up marrying, having kids, and that sort of thing. And at one point, towards the latter half of the book. Actually, in the latter half of the book, at one point in that latter half, they are desolate. They've got like no money, no nothing. They have to like go to the city to beg for anything, food, money, and stuff, just to kind of live, because they don't have anything. And at one point, they contemplate selling their youngest child, and that sort of thing. I mean, that to me is yeah, it's the situation crops up. So if I just said you had to sell your youngest child, or you know, that sort of thing, yeah, that's emotional right there. But I guess because it was something, when you're reading it, you're kind of like, oh, and then it just kind of comes up as a natural sort of thing. It's the cause and effect sort of thing, not just plop, it just happens because silly things, and that sort of thing. And that, I guess, it kind of irritates me a bit more and doesn't feel as genuine emotionally, is because it's there to elicit emotion, as it may be opposed to the natural flow of a story. I mean, maybe they can be one and the same, but sometimes you're kind of like, but that's it for the discussion. So if you've got any good, bad, in between sort of things, totally let me know. I am very much interested to know, or you know, I'm just very interested to know if anybody's got good examples of either one. So let's take a break. I'm going to go to sleep and then record this other part later, because it's late and I sleepy. So listen to this break, and it'll be like I was only gone for a couple minutes. So, but you will never know the hours in between. Anywho, so take a break, and then comment section. welcome back there. That was Oinaru Chikara, and that comes out to mean like great strength. And it, if you've played the game, it comes at a pretty kind of nifty part and a nifty battle there. The aesthetics for it and whatnot. So it's I don't know. It's not the final boss fight, so that might kind of throw you off. I don't think it's quite a spoiler to say that, but maybe it is, and maybe I'm a bastard for saying that. I apologize. Got a quick comment section, and then we've got the quote section. So let's get through this. It's been long. Yeah, it's been a long day. It's gonna be a lot long days ahead. Busy bumblebee. So the comment that I got today, well, not today, but it's from Kid Koala, and he said, I was going to try and take the test, but I'm pretty sure our results would be very similar. After hearing you talk about the personality traits, I would say that mine, your brain seems to think very similarly. Yeah, I kind of estimated that. I guesstimated. I took a guess, but and then he goes on to say, and yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of the X series. Mega Man felt a lot slower to me. I'm not the only one. It seriously felt that way too. Like I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because there's no. It's not that all the things are that way, but maybe because there's less transition going on from like screen to screen. Maybe that will. I don't know, but I kind of felt the same way. It never quite felt the same to me, and yeah. But I said if Mega Man felt a lot slower to me for some reason in those games. I don't think they were bad games by any means, just not for me. Also, I didn't care much for the Battle Network games either. Just thought I would throw that out there. The only Mega Man game spin-offs I like a lot was the Legend series. Thanks, Capcom. That. I'm actually with you too. It's me, myself, the Blue Bomber, and then the Legend series. X isn't terrible or anything, but I just never really got into it. A lot of people really got into that who didn't really get into the Blue Bomber series, and I think when they try to jump back, it doesn't work for them either. And then of course there's people who like, started with one, but still like the other a lot. I don't know. I've tried to play. I've beaten 1, beaten 2. I don't even think I've beaten 3, and 2. I think you fight against 0 if you don't collect the parts, if I recall right. And 3 is where you play as him. I never had it. And I don't know, by 2 I was already kind of getting really agitated with the game. So just kind of like, these are not fun to me. Kind of tedious would be a good way for me to put it. They feel tedious to me. I remember as a kid renting those out, particularly like, which one's the one with Wheel Gator? Is that 2? But and not liking them, just being kind of agitated with it, and just like, this isn't fun. I don't know, they just didn't work for me. And the Legends games, I love those to pieces. So yeah. And he said no worries about the delayed response, and yeah, I apologize. It's not even like a thing of slacking and jumping from here to there, but it's just I have been slammed with a bunch of stuff, so that's why I'm recording these at 3 o'clock. So that's why if my brain isn't quite into it, it's because I'm very sleepy. So yeah. Alright, that is all that I got. I did get a few more private messages on different things, and I'm not gonna, if people want me to share those, I can share those, but because they were sent that way and not put through something like this, I'll just kind of keep them more private. Yeah, so that is the comment section. So let's take a break and then do the quote and then wrap this up, as I totally hit the wrong thing. Okay, welcome back. That song there was Link of Arcus, and I, I, I kind of like, and I don't know how to put this, but a lot of it's like progressive violin music. I really don't know how to put it, but I really like with a lot of the rock music they added in a violin, particularly with like Salsetta's music. So, is a really cool example of that. Yeah, that sort of thing. But yep, that's one of those. I think as I'm kind of looking down this list, that's my problem with the Sen soundtrack is that a lot of the other music outside of the battles really don't stick well with me. And certainly like with other games in the series, you know, Zeno no Kiseki, Ao no Kiseki, Trails in the Sky, the battle themes are the ones that usually stick out the most, but there are other ones that stick out too. The Sen's really doesn't for me. There's certain ones that do in Sen 2, but I think Sen 2 is a weaker game than Sen 1, so sadness. So, and I know Sen 2 is coming out sometime, I think towards the end of the year, so hopefully people who do get it end up enjoying it. That's all I can say. I mean, in one hand, I know it sounds greedy, but in one hand I kind of hope it doesn't do as well, because then it kind of keeps them pushing towards this direction. I don't like the direction of it. Personal taste and stuff. I've seen I think a lot of the Japanese players seem to be kind of I don't want to say confused, but surprised as well, because I don't think a lot of them really took to Sen as much as the North American and European audiences, and Australia too. Can't forget Gregor's, but I don't know, and I mean, playing these games, you can see there is a huge. I mean, it's kind of unfair to point from like Trails in the Sky to Trails of Cold Steel, because there is that big gap, but going from, you know, Trails in the Sky to Zeno no Kiseki to Ao no Kiseki to Trails of Cold Steel, you see this really radical change. And it's not just because, I mean, yeah, you have the 3D models and stuff like that, so it does change in that regard. The battles are, you know, it's more circles based kind of stuff going on and whatnot, but it's also just it drags. The games drag. Sen and Sen 2 drag. They really feel like, to me, they could be better put as a game and a third, stretched out for 2 games, or maybe a game and a half. It really, Sen 2 in particular, kind of drags for me, and maybe I'm just wasn't in the right mentality to tackle it or something. But that's, I mean, I'd like to go back to play them, but in the same hand, I've wanted to go back and play through Zeno no Kiseki and Ao no Kiseki, because those two are like that duology there is my favorite so far, and I haven't even had fucking time to do that, so who knows. Yeah, and I realize I actually didn't even, oh my goodness, I am such a dork. I didn't even like look up the thing to do the quote. And it's the quote section, so I'm going to pause this, and then I'm going to look up a quote, because I'm just rambling at this point, because I'm a dork. So, pause, unpause. So, yeah, I decided to dig from the good old meditations there with Marcus Aurelius and give you this one. It's from Book 7, line 59, or I guess quote 59? We'll go with line 59. Dig inside yourself. Inside there is a spring of goodness ready to gush at any moment, if you keep digging. Yeah, that's it. Fairly simple. That's, yeah, just kind of keep on trying, particularly in light of recent things that have been going on. Keep digging. and find that well to gush forward, and not just mundane, you know, banality of life, sort of like a faux cheerfulness, but like a genuine joy, sort of thing. That's, yeah. That is all I got. I'm sleepy. I'm gonna go to sleep. So that is that. I guess I should have just recorded the rest the night before instead of right now. But that is that. The song I'm gonna go lead you out with is called Belief, and I have played it before. It's kind of like the end of Gaijin Gaming there, and this like I didn't have time to write anything or put up any lines or anything, so I'm kind of just like, so the show, like this little stupid thing, kind of sort of like I don't know, like the end of Peace Walker, because I always thought that was kind of nifty, but it wasn't like really much of saying anything. It was just kind of, I don't know, I seem to have this habit of not really having the time that I'd like to do things. That, and I think I might have mentioned it before, but if not, I'm going to put it here on the tail end. Next Rambling Weekly is going to be covering a bit of a philosophical talk with a good friend of mine, and I don't know if he's been on something before. I don't think he has. But should be interesting, because he's a pretty interesting guy. I think I know, I probably mentioned him before, but his name's, I won't mention his name, just in case he wants to go by something else. But yeah, he's a fairly interesting person, and truth be told, when I kind of came up with, when I asked him about it and stuff, it was because we kind of had a bit of a 3-hour discussion starting with this thing, and then kind of curtailing into a whole bunch of other things. It's not going to be 3 hours, I promise you that, but it's going to be talking about this concept about how if it's really best to, if there's a way to improve yourself without any sort of negative effects, say you take some sort of miracle pill and that sort of thing, and it makes you super strong, or you know, super smart, or you know, both, something like that, would you take it? And would you kind of feel like there is just absolutely nothing to worry about doing such a thing like that? So I have to think of a better title on that. That's a bit wordy. But that's that. Enjoy Belief, and I will talk to you guys sometime next week. Alright, take it easy.